This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
And welcome to the current state of WWE, everybody. It is Monday, October 3rd, 2023. We've got a couple of really fun topics to talk about tonight with Anthony DeMarco joining me as always every single week. And we've got something of topic that hasn't been official in Randy Orton. We'll talk about that at the second half of the show. But of course, with LA Knight front and center, we have Crown Jewel a week and a half away roughly. And LA Knight has been thrust to the forefront already to face Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Championship. Many believing he has no chance. But Anthony, first of all, how you doing? And what are your thoughts about LA Knight already now pushed to the main event?
Well, first off, doing well, man. Thanks for asking. Before jumping on here, I was taking in the semifinals of the what do you guys call it? Because you're an avid baseball follower. I only jump on the bandwagon for playoff time. Is it like the AL finals or the NL finals?
So like exactly. There are two leagues. So the American League and National League. So it's the ALCS and the NLCS.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are considered like the finals of the respective leagues.
Yes.
So yeah. So taking in those games, hell of a game going on right now between Texas and Houston. Obviously, Houston has been a juggernaut for quite some time, but shifting over to wrestling, the reason we are all here. I mean, look, it's a weird feeling I have right now about LA Knight. It's like, I don't know if Vince McMahon's removal from creative has a direct correlation with the sudden mega push and rocket strapped to the back of LA Knight. But it's almost feeling like they're trying to make up for lost time here. And everyone, myself included, was expecting AJ Styles to kind of get the first crack at Roman Reigns upon his return from his hiatus post SummerSlam. AJ's been pushed to the side. LA Knight has been shoved right in there. And after one night of going face-to-face with Roman Reigns, not counting the live event where he actually hit the blunt force trauma on Roman Reigns, but it just feels like all of a sudden this is supposed to be built as like this major match, and I want to feel invested for it. But after all this like waiting for LA Knight to be a main eventer, he's here, and I can't help but feel like not invested in it, and I don't know why. Like, how are you feeling about this?
It's so funny. I've been trying to break down the feeling that I've had, which is, it is similar to yours. I won't say I'm I'm disinvested, but I don't feel as invested as I should be. And I think the part of that is that while this is what the Yeah movement is leading to, this is what we all wanted to happen, was Roman versus LA Knight for the undisputed title. It feels like it's about 4 months too early, at least, and maybe even a little longer, because when Triple H said at the post-press conference after Money in the Bank, good things come to those that wait, and then we finally get a Battle Royal victory from LA Knight, and he's been scratching and clawing ever since then. It feels like he went from chapter 1 to chapter 2 to chapter 3 and then skipped to chapter 8, 9, and 10. And it's like we didn't get that in-between part that I think would have helped us connect with him even stronger, get to know him a little more, make his promos a little bit less witty and funny lines and more like substance. I like his promos. They're fun and they're entertaining. And I said this last night, that they need to not just be good anymore or fun. They need to be great. They need to be, we need to get emotionally invested with substance of who and what he is. And he's still getting great pops, don't get me wrong. It just feels like we've skipped a big chunk of what we would have been on in a typical journey from the bottom. And like you said, it does feel a little rushed, even though WWE would tell us, if they were on the call here, they would probably say to us, well, isn't this what you wanted? And now you don't want what you tell us you did want. And all of a sudden I can hear it, but there is a story that we were all on board for. And I think most fans understood this is going to take a little while. And then he gets catapulted on top of the fact that most fans don't believe he has any chance to win. I feel very conflicted.
Yeah, I think it's like, first off, do you think there's any correlation to Vince McMahon's removal of creative to the sudden rocket ship strapped to LA Knight? Because it feels like a month ago he was feuding with The Miz, which was blown off on, I believe it was a televised match, wasn't it, on SmackDown, that entire program was blown off. And now all of a sudden LA Knight is just like shoved in the main event. And this has completely all been about a slow build with LA Knight until the last 3 weeks. And then I get it that, they say that LA Knight has earned it. And I do understand, like, he wins the Battle Royal. He beats The Miz back to back. He wins in the main event of WrestleMania of, as I believe, like, a massive helicopters flying over my house. I really hope nothing's going wrong there. But he wins a tag team match. It was at Fastlane with John Cena and against the Bloodline. So, I mean, he has earned it with his recent stretch of victories going all the way back to SummerSlam. But I just thought that there would have been more of like a slow build here. And like we would have at least gotten Roman Reigns back for more than a night before like his next opponent was already chosen. And it was like the first time that we had seen him in the ring with LA Knight. And maybe it's also because I'm just expecting LA Knight to lose. And maybe that's my way too early prediction for Crown Jewel. I'm just expecting LA Knight to lose. Like, I just don't feel like he's going to be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns in early November after Roman Reigns' first match it will be 3 months. First of all, let that sink in. By the time he defends the championship at Crown Jewel, it will be 3 months since his last championship. So, I mean, maybe it's just a combination of everything, including Roman Reigns' 3-month gap between title defenses. But like, I want to be invested, but between the predictability, Roman Reigns' gap between defending the championships, and like LA Knight's just sudden mega push after being slowly built for the preceding like 5 months, I just feel kind of weird about the entire thing.
It is a very contrast. It's a mix of feelings, and it does have a lot to do with the fact that I think fans, when they saw this journey start and they knew how long it would likely take and they're on board for that journey, that when they got to that destination, when they finally got to that championship match with Roman, the feeling was that we would believe that he has a very good chance. If not, he's the favorite to beat Roman. That finally we're gonna see Roman drop the belt. That LA Knight was going to be that guy, and he's being treated now, at least in booking wise, the most likely scenario is that he is the first in line of many that Roman is going to face on his road to WrestleMania, likely culminating with probably Cody Rhodes, if The Rock's rumors of him not being at 40, and I don't even want to get into that, but assuming The Rock's not there, it probably is Cody Rhodes and Roman part 2, and it looks like Cody's going to be the guy at 40 to beat Roman Reigns for the belt. So that to me is also on WWE, not LA Knight. Sure, LA Knight can improve his promos a little bit and do some things here and there, but largely this falls on creative for pushing him to this position and being the guy, one of probably 3 or 4 opponents leading to WrestleMania for Roman Reigns. And obviously guy number 1 has no chance, almost none, to beat Roman Reigns. And I think that's the most disappointment that fans are feeling and pointing to, is that when they finally got the belt, the opportunity for LA Knight to capture the belt, we're looking at a match that he has no chance of winning.
I think that's the sad part, right? Because even if he wasn't going to win, like, why didn't you book this for another pay-per-view somewhere down the line here where you could have built this more? Like, I really thought that AJ Styles was like the perfect competitor to face Roman Reigns upon the latter's return. And that's no disrespect to AJ Styles. I think that he's probably been the unsung hero of WWE for the last 8 years or so, and one of the more underrated champions in the history of the company. And to be honest, like, I'm hoping he does get another world title run before he eventually hangs them up. But it just felt that LA Knight deserved more of a push. But at the same time, if you think about it, if it wasn't going to be Crown Jewel, the next time it could have been Royal Rumble, because there is no pay-per-view in December, and Survivor Series is kind of like a exhibition pay-per-view at this point. Like, I don't know if they're going to do Raw versus SmackDown. Sure, seems like it's trending that direction. Will they do champion versus champion? Are they going to do Team Roman against Team Seth? I don't know what they're going to do, but it doesn't feel like he's going to be defending that championship against anyone at Survivor Series. So I guess they're saying to themselves, like, hey, if we want to do LA Knight and Roman Reigns at any point, it has to be Crown Jewel, because in my opinion, this isn't the end for LA Knight. I fully expect him, pardon me, and I guess this is my way too early Royal Rumble prediction, but I fully expect LA Knight to win the Royal Rumble and cross over to Monday Night Raw and challenge whoever the World Heavyweight Champion is. Which, I mean, I guess that would be a good consolation prize, but in the here and now, that's still going to be like, what, a 2.5 month wait before LA Knight gets that retribution of winning the Royal Rumble, assuming any of this is true and any of my predictions are true. So that's what I think. I think this is in Triple H's mind and creative's mind. They're saying, like, okay, like, we're just going to make him have to overcome one more obstacle and then build him back up leading up to Rumble, and then he wins the Rumble and goes over and challenges the World Heavyweight Champion.
It's crazy that we're talking about the World Heavyweight Championship as a consolation prize.
Yep.
But it is. I mean, it is in comparison to that unified championship, the Undisputed Belt. But that's actually where I was going to go next, is the Rumble. And okay, let's assume, and sure, they could still shock the world and have LA Knight win at Crown Jewel. It's still possible. I'd say less than like a 3% chance, but it's still possible. Outside of that very unlikely scenario, LA Knight loses. They could do a Rumble scenario where he does win, but instead of challenging the World Heavyweight Championship, he challenges Roman. And what's coming to mind for me is Daniel Bryan before WrestleMania 30. If you remember, Daniel Bryan won the championship at SummerSlam prior to WrestleMania, and that's when Randy Orton cashed in, Triple H turned heel, and they built from SummerSlam to Mania, where Bryan finally overcame Triple H, and then, of course, in the Triple Threat, won the belt. So my point is that I think it's possible that LA Knight wins but doesn't win, where he gets completely screwed from someone somewhere. I hope it's not another interference that we've seen, but it's possible they do it where they tease it and then he is, the decision is reversed and he actually hasn't won and he gets screwed completely. Roman retains, and then they build to a Rumble where Knight wins, and then Roman Reigns is forced to face LA Knight again at WrestleMania, and that's where LA Knight beats Roman Reigns. It's possible, but you're right. Either way, it looks like we have a LA Knight favorite to win this year's Royal Rumble, whether it's for the world title or a rematch with Roman Reigns.
Actually, now that you mention it, the main event booking of Roman Reigns over the last year or so, and we praise Triple H about most of the things that he's done with creative, and specifically like the mid card and the undercard, and how he's really shown respect to like all the televised wrestlers and telling a story for everyone. But one thing I've kind of thought about, and this isn't for the entirety of the main event, because I do think with the women's matches it's been good and Seth and all that, but it feels like since he's taken over creative, and we do have to take this a bit of like, how much did Vince have a say in it, let's say between WrestleMania and now, but it feels like every Roman Reigns match since Triple H took over has kind of been cut from the same cloth. And that's not to say there was no interference under Vince, or like no interference in Roman matches under Vince, but it felt like Roman Reigns at least had some clean victories under Vince, like his victory against Brock at WrestleMania 38, or I believe he had a clean victory over Edge, if I'm not mistaken, or I think he had a clean victory over Edge for the most part, or at least if there was interference, there's very little. And it just feels like maybe Triple H's weak point to like during being head of creative has been overbooking Roman Reigns matches as to try and save the babyface from looking bad in any fashion, really trying to protect the babyface at all costs. So, I mean, for you, have you noticed that trend under Triple H, or am I kind of grasping at straws here?
No, I think there is some validity to that. I haven't actually sat and thought about that, but as I think back on just a few matches, you could very well be right. Now, the idea of Triple H and his philosophies being played out, we've only seen a little bit of that because Triple H took over, then Vince came back, but we didn't know about it. Then we did, and now Triple H is truly taking over. So there is a lot of kind of in and out with Vince having his fingers in everything. But now that Triple H has fully taken over the last month or so, I think we can now look for those things that you outlined. We can look for the interference. We can look for the protection of the baby faces, and what Triple H's philosophies are, I think will come really to a head. And we'll really see them now that Vince is out of the picture completely, hopefully. So, but if Triple H was involved heavily in the past, then yeah, I think you're right. Triple H does protect the baby faces and does overbook at times. Like you said, I can think of how many matches, especially Roman matches, that have been insanely overbooked and overthought and hard to follow. And the end result is, of course, Roman winning at the end. Yeah, but we can now look from here forward and go, okay, if this is truly Triple H's game, pun intended, then we can just judge him moving forward instead of going, oh, well, Vince is still involved. We don't know. Let's assume it's not, and it's just Triple H. So to answer your question, yeah, I do see a little bit of that, but also how often was Vince involved? It's really tough to know over the last year.
That's a good question because he forced his way back in late January, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then we really saw his fingerprints, I guess, the following Raw after Mania. So since then, I mean, there's literally only been one title defense of Roman since then. But I mean, the Seth run has seemed very Triple H-esque. Well, I guess I'm not sure because the whole fighting champion seems like something cut from Vince. But like the rebuilding of Shinsuke Nakamura, I think that Vince maybe had his fingers in the pie with the main event level booking, but there was still some good storytelling in the mid and lower card. So I feel like Vince was probably involved more in the main event stuff, but I guess if there was any strong part to Vince in the later years was the big stage matches, the main event matches, because he even would put on good WrestleManias and typically decent Royal Rumbles and all that. It was just like the mid and lower cards and the B-level pay-per-views that were really not taken seriously by Vince. So I guess to wrap up this whole topic of Vince, I guess that was his strong suit in the later years, was just his ability to focus on the main event scene and the bigger pay-per-views.
Yeah, Vince, I mean, that's what we were told he was doing, even though I think it was more. That certainly does feel like Vince. He wanted to be involved in the top stories. What's Roman doing? What's Seth doing? Now what's Cena doing? Like, that's been Vince's thing, and worrying about the bigger stars and the bigger names, and especially later in his career. So we can assume that Vince had a say, and now to what degree we don't know, over the last 18 months of Roman's run. And now we can see what Triple H has envisioned from here on out. And, I think we can judge him cleanly from here out as Triple H's really first totally free pay-per-view that we can say, okay, this is all on Paul Levesque. So, all right, well, now that we've covered LA Knight, I want to talk about a guy that we have been talking about really since May of 2022. So this is going back to 17 months when he was actually injured in storyline by the Bloodline. Of course, I'm talking about the Viper Randy Orton. And over these last 17 months, year and a half roughly, we have heard conflicting reports. He's done with wrestling. The doctors have told him don't come back. Oh, he's on his way back. Oh, he could come back here. Oh wait, the doctors say he's never going to wrestle again. But Randy Orton doesn't care. Then he shows up at the Performance Center, which was the biggest clue that he's actually coming back. And now there are rumors that they have solidified his return plans and that his return is imminent. So that's the latest. So I guess to you, first, are you excited to see Randy Orton's likely, but not guaranteed, return in the near future? And what would you do with him off the bat?
That's interesting. So the first question, do I see him returning in the near future? I would imagine so, right? Like, we're coming up on 18 months of him being absent, and that will be 18 months probably in November, right around Survivor Series time. And I think Survivor Series this year is going to be a major, major event for WWE. Like, obviously, we have the CM Punk rumors swirling around. Is he going to be there? Is he not going to be there? Does WWE want him or not? Will they sign him? And then you have Randy Orton. Randy Orton is in a very interesting spot because, I mean, as you've mentioned a lot of times, who put him out of action on screen, at least, it was the Bloodline. His then partner has been released from WWE in Matt Riddle. Is he going to go to Raw? Is he going to go to SmackDown? Like, is he going to be heel? Is he going to be babyface? Like, you can make the case that the pandemic version of Randy Orton was the best ever version of Randy Orton. Maybe aside from like the Viper gimmick when he had Legacy at his side in 08, 09 in those years. But what it showed is that Randy Orton can still be at his very best, even at the age of 43. And when he's at his very best, there is you'd be hard pressed to find someone who does it better than Randy Orton. And with him being 43, you don't want to just throw him away in a meaningless program. Now, does that mean going up against Roman Reigns? I mean, I would like to say yes, but I feel like his plate is full. Roman Reigns, that is, because you still have John Cena floating around. What are you going to do with Jey Uso? Although I don't think he's going to have another match with Roman Reigns. I think he's on a collision course with his brother, Jimmy. So, I mean, I guess you could set up Randy Orton against Roman Reigns as a stopgap at Royal Rumble season. I really don't think there's going to be a title defense at Survivor Series for Roman Reigns, unfortunately. Do you send him to Monday Night Raw? But Monday Night Raw, for me, that main event scene is probably full right up until WrestleMania, because I do see Drew winning the championship sometime between now and Royal Rumble. Maybe that's at Crown Jewel. And then you could have him face off against maybe Seth Rollins one more time. I think him and Sami Zayn are probably going to have a match for the World Heavyweight Championship. Would you revisit Randy versus Drew, who had a nice program in late 2020 during the pandemic / Thunderdome era? So, I mean, you have options with Randy. I don't know if he's going to go right in with Roman Reigns, but I think that just based on how occupied that Raw side of the main event is, you would probably at this juncture set up a Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns match for the Royal Rumble. What about you?
That seems absolutely likely. It seems like the most logical scenario of having a massive Impact return would be against Roman, and it would be and should be for the championship. Now, is there any chance, again, as we keep doing this, and I feel like we've done this for 3 years, where we look at the opponents 2, 3, 4 months in advance and go, yep, nope, he'll face them, but nope, he'll face them, but nope. And that's partly why the LA Knight thing burns you so much, because he's actually a guy you could have him stop the streak. But Randy Orton is likely a guy, even if he faces Roman at Survivor Series, he's still likely in that line of guys that is not going to beat Roman Reigns. And look, I'm a Randy Orton fan. He will get a massive reaction upon his return. So even if they have ideas to turn him heel, you can't do it off the bat because people are just going to be too excited to see him. So you probably have to wait a little time to make that happen. So you absolutely could do Roman and Randy off the bat. He'll be red hot. And I think that is a perfect fit to also to tie up what happened 18 months ago taking out Randy with the bloodline. The other option is I'm thinking, well, he could be somebody to help vanquish the Judgment Day on Raw. But when you look at who's opposing the Judgment Day, you have Jey Uso. And what did Jey Uso do? He helped put Randy on the shelf. It wouldn't make sense if Randy came back and aligned himself with Jey to help take out the Judgment Day. And I know you have Cody there too, but I think it does, and he does end up on SmackDown as well. It seems to be a better fit. He could work with the Solo Sikoa. He could work with Jimmy Uso and, of course, Roman Reigns, because the other side of the coin just doesn't seem to make sense right now with Jey Uso there. Unless WWE, and I could see them doing this too, completely ignores the fact that happened and they just want to start him fresh. I could see them hoping the fans forget or that they don't care about how Randy Orton went out. Now, if we all know that it's not truly what happened. It was storyline, but from what I understand, he actually had like a back fusion surgery. So that to me is the most likely. I'm with you, but it is probably a one-off. And then after that, in December, there's nothing, and you're in Rumble season. And at the Rumble, who could he face? I mean, I don't know. We're getting a few pay-per-views ahead, but for you and I think we've kind of locked in LA Knight, which is confirmed, of course, and then Randy Orton. If Randy Orton does return, then probably AJ Styles. But that to me is a Randy Orton lock for Survivor Series. I just hope they don't do the ridiculous brand versus brand that was teased this week, or they do some exhibition nonsense that has no consequence whatsoever, and they just play in the sandbox for 3 hours. So, yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is that Raw side of the main event just seems like it has so many moving parts, as opposed to the SmackDown side. It more or less seems set in stone that we're seeing Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns Part 2 at WrestleMania for the Undisputed Championship. But on the Raw side, like, for me, like, my way too early prediction is Drew McIntyre going in as a heel to WrestleMania as the World Heavyweight Champion, and the Royal Rumble winner being LA Knight to cross over and face him for the championship at Mania. And I'm pretty sure that they have a history going back with one another to TNA or Impact, whatever they're calling it this day of the week. But I believe that they do have a history going back to TNA, but that's anything but set in stone, because where does Seth Rollins fall in all this? Where does Damian Priest and the Money in the Bank contract fall in all of this? Where does Randy Orton fall in all of this? Sami Zayn, like, what are you going to do with him? Like, for you, like, we've both kind of agreed that if it's not Rock Roman, which it doesn't seem like it's going to be Rock Roman Cody. But for the Raw side of things in the World Heavyweight Championship, do you have any idea where they're going right now?
Well, I will say this, and an early spoiler, I will, now this is not me hearing anything, it's my own brain. This is, to me, a lock that Drew McIntyre wins, and I think he should win. And what I think will happen is he'll win in a way that's questionable if you're a babyface. Maybe he'll take advantage of, somebody coming in to screw over Seth, and Seth gets hit with something and hits with a foreign object, and then he turns around, Claymore, and Seth's championship reign is over. So I think that this really solidifies Drew now in the heel category. It does two things at once. It gets the belt off of Seth, which I think it's time. I think it's time. We don't all need to compare it to Roman's run, which is egregiously long. And now you can also turn Drew heel and have a heel champion going into WrestleMania season, which is almost always a better story to tell with a heel champion going into WrestleMania with baby faces trying to climb the mountain to topple the heel. That's almost always a better formula. So it kind of knocks out two birds with one stone here. It achieves everything you wanted to achieve. Seth is not going to be hurt by this loss. So on the Raw side of things, you have Drew, presumably as a heel champion, rolling into WrestleMania season. You have Cody Rhodes chomping at the bit. You have Seth Rollins still chomping at the bit. I could see a couple of triple threat matches with those three men, in maybe even Sami Zayn thrown in for a fatal four-way at Survivor Series if they don't do some War Games nonsense, which is why this year, especially if you don't do a pay-per-view in December, you can't do this like specialty crap in November because you already don't have anything in December. You don't have Royal Rumble to the end of January. So that's like 2 months of no pay-per-views. You got to make no Survivor Series count and not do this silly exhibition crap or, you know, all these gimmick. You got to further the storylines. That's my opinion. But you probably have Sammy thrown into the mix. You have Seth thrown into the mix. You have Cody and the heel champion, Drew McIntyre, where they're all in multi-man matches, and maybe it's eventually a one-on-one with Drew and Cody. There's so many combinations with those four men over the next couple of months going into then Rumble season that you could easily fill enough time on Raw with main events, probably a championship match thrown in here and there on top of Survivor Series. And that's probably how it goes going into WrestleMania. And I do expect Drew to go into WrestleMania as world champion.
Yeah, and as he should. I think that we've had enough time of Drew away from the main event. And I think he's kind of paid his dues tenfold at this point. Like, he kind of helped put over Gunther. Like, I would argue that aside from Gunther's first program with Sheamus last year, which was kind of like his first major feud on the main roster, his biggest victory has come against Drew McIntyre, first in the three-way match at WrestleMania, and then in the singles match at SummerSlam. So I think Drew is ready now, and I think that Seth can survive as, you know, without the championship. I would like to see him, like, in an ideal world, I think that he should face Roman Reigns for the championship at WrestleMania 40, but they're obviously not going to go there. What he does at WrestleMania will be very, very interesting. But I just think either way, Drew is ready to carry that World Heavyweight Championship. And I think a heel version of Drew McIntyre against LA Knight would be fun. And then LA Knight could probably get his big victory at WrestleMania. But I think that you would go in with two very good-looking main events on either side of the brands. And to be honest, I would be more excited to see LA Knight versus Drew than Cody Rhodes versus Roman.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, it kind of seems that's the way they're going. And, you know, could they shake things up? Somebody unexpected wins the Rumble. Yeah, of course. I mean, we've got a lot of time to speculate, but that seems to be, as of this very day on October 23rd, that is where they are headed, are those two main events, Cody versus Roman 2, where already, I mean, you have a massive favorite. I couldn't imagine Cody going into that match and actually not winning this time. I mean, he would be, out of every match Roman's had in 3.5 years defending his belt, that Cody wouldn't be the most highly favored opponent to win the match out of all of his opponents and all of his title defenses. So he'd nearly be guaranteed to beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 and get his stupid moment and all that stuff. But you're right. I would much more look forward to Drew McIntyre in the main event defending his championship against LA Knight. You're absolutely right. And that to me, even if LA Knight wins, like, would you rather see LA Knight capture the world championship, or would you rather see him, if you had an opportunity, would you rather have him beat Roman? And, you know, assuming Roman retains against Cody, or would you rather have LA Knight take the world championship from Drew McIntyre?
Well, I mean, it's weird because last week we spoke about how nothing would justify Roman Reigns' run, like no payoff. And I feel like LA Knight wouldn't justify it either. And I feel like that wouldn't be doing LA Knight's rise justice. So, like, in some way, I kind of want him to win the World Heavyweight Championship instead, just so he could kind of blaze his own trail and be on Monday Night Raw. Like, I know he's become a staple of SmackDown, but I feel like on SmackDown, even though he has been presented as the top babyface, like, he still has kind of felt a little bit, not buried, but overshadowed. Like, John Cena has had to, like, kind of hold his hand along through all this, and I don't really think that that's been needed. You know, you still, and this is more on creative, like, because we haven't seen them really in the ring together that much, they haven't really presented LA Knight as an equal to Roman Reigns. So I never thought I would say this, but I'm envisioning both championship victories and him walking around with both titles and being on both brands. But I think that he would actually be better served winning the World Heavyweight Championship and becoming the face of Monday Night Raw.
And there are actually some advantages to that, because also whoever beats Roman, say it is LA Knight, the title reign that they have is obviously not going to be anywhere near what Roman has done. Even if they have a 6 to 8 month run with the belt, which is about average, you would look at that and go, wow, that was really short. But it's all because now whoever's holding that belt, we would all compare to Roman's run, which for better or worse is the way that it's going to be. But with the World Heavyweight Championship being resurrected, I think that you could look at that and think that, wow, okay, 6 to 8 month of a run, that's solid. That feels like a long run. So it's all kind of how you look at it. But it's almost as if whoever wins that belt is going to be cursed from the start, because they're going to probably drop it in the average amount of time to whoever is in the storyline to next take the belt. So I would actually agree with that. And also, I do kind of want LA Knight on Raw. I know that he's on SmackDown, and SmackDown is kind of the land of bigger stars right now and higher ratings and all that. I get it, but I don't know why LA Knight feels like he belongs on Raw. It feels like that seems to be, for me, a nice home for him. Raw, even though sometimes the numbers and star power don't show it, still feels to me like the flagship show, probably because it's been around for longer. And it has so many great moments in my mind of things that have happened over the years. But I think LA Knight could really help elevate the Monday Night Raw brand. And if they ever initiate a trade, LA Knight coming to Monday Night Raw could be the way to help both LA Knight and Raw. And then the only way that can happen at this point is him winning the Royal Rumble. Would you agree that he should win the Rumble no matter what the case is? I can't make a case for anyone else, really.
Yeah, because you're not going to have Cody win it back-to-back years. I mean, you could, but I don't think you want to put him in Stone Cold Steve Austin territory. Although I wouldn't put it past WWE and their...
Yeah, I was going to say, and have him come in number 30 again.
Yeah, exactly. But look, it's such low-hanging fruit to have LA Knight win the Royal Rumble. I think that especially after his... And I think it's fair to say, like, he's going to lose that crown jewel. Like, we all know that. So you're going to have to build him back up after a massive loss for 2.5 months. It just makes all the sense in the world. And then by that time, you're going to presumably have Drew seasoning on Monday Night or on Monday Night Raw as the World Heavyweight Champion. And then the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view in Australia will help set up the contender for the Undisputed Championship. And they've used the Chamber as a number one contenders match before, kind of like a Royal Rumble light. So I would imagine Cody Rhodes would win that in Australia. So, that's how I kind of see things shaking out. And, at this point, if they face off again, even though I really do, everyone knows that you and myself dislike Cody Rhodes, I think that if they were to face off again at WrestleMania 40, you would have to give Cody the win. Like, as much as I dislike the Cody Rhodes character, it would be just extremely disrespectful to have him lose in back-to-back Manias against Roman.
Yeah, putting aside, and it's very difficult to put aside my feelings for his babyface character because it's just one of the worst I've ever seen in my life. But putting that aside and all personal feelings aside, looking at this completely objectively, you're right. There is no way they can have Cody go in again and lose again. You just can't. It would damage Cody Rhodes pretty significantly, and I think it would just put, honestly, a ton of heat on the company itself, not just on Roman, who's just doing what he's told to do, but on the company. I think you just can't do that. So you're right. If any way, shape, or form Cody faces Roman at Mania, game over, game, set, match, the streak is over. There's no way you can get out of that. Cody wins and he gets his moment. We can all finally move on from his story. So, I'm ready to close the book. I don't even want to read the rest of it. I just want to shut the book and throw it in a fireplace. But for me, I'm looking at the Raw side of things. And like we just said, I'm more excited for if they're not going to. And look, we're just assuming that Knight's going to not chase Roman again. If he wins the Rumble, if there's a choice there, it would make no sense if he doesn't challenge Roman again. But I could see where he would go after the world title, leaving Roman open for whoever challenges him. And as we just said, it probably is Cody somehow. Now, I don't know how Cody gets there because unless he wins the tag titles again, how exactly he gets there, unless it's some kind of a request to Adam Pearce, and that Adam Pearce has to talk to Nick Aldis and create this interpromotional match. It's, there's ways to do it, but with Triple H, as we talked about at the beginning here, one great change I've already noticed, though, just in the couple of weeks he's been in charge, he actually so far has respected the brand split, where when Jay showed up on SmackDown, there was security chasing him out of the arena. That makes sense because the guy shouldn't be there. So there is that.
I think that they'll do something at the Chamber, like 3 guys from Raw, 3 guys from SmackDown, and the winner faces Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And Cody will be part of that match, and then it will kind of like, in a way, or they could do something like LA Knight chooses to go to Monday Night Raw because he won the Royal Rumble, and then SmackDown gets compensation. Something like that. Those are the 2 best options, I would imagine. But I also think that you want to give some validity to the Elimination Chamber match. And last year they had it for the United States Championship in Montreal. I remember that very, very well. And it did elevate the US title. But I mean, I think that you want to feel a bit more special, especially in Australia this time around. And yeah, you can make the case that a mid-card championship would feel more special than a number 1 contenders match. But if the main event of WrestleMania, or one of the main events of WrestleMania, is on the line, I mean, that could feel pretty damn special too. So those are the 2 situations I think that you could get Cody Rhodes on SmackDown to face Roman.
Absolutely. I mean, they'll find a way, as and the thing is, they even teased it already a couple weeks ago when he was on SmackDown with Jay as the tag champion,
which was very well done, I'll say.
Agreed. I totally agree. Again, you and I take nothing away from Cody's in-ring ability, even his promo ability. He does feel like a star, even though when you look at it, just completely logically, you're just like, he shouldn't be. Like, we don't know why. He just came back from AEW. He was not a star when he left, other than a Stardust. He wasn't anything. He just goes to a competing company and comes back. Anyway, but yeah, I agree. It did seem like a big moment, even though you and I despise his babyface character. There was nice tension. The body language was perfectly done. And it was a signal to the fans of, we haven't forgot. Part 2 will happen, and it'll happen sometime in the next probably 6 months. So I would agree with that. We can still hate the character, but appreciate the storyline and appreciate the effort and execution. So that is possible. Those 2 things can be true at once.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think that if this is the avenue they choose to go down, like, I think that my want to see the championship off of Roman Reigns is now starting to outweigh my dislike for Cody Rhodes, to a point where I'd probably be cheering for Cody Rhodes, which is crazy to say.
Well, no, I understand where you're coming from, but I think that would be short-lived, because you're just cheering for that moment to happen. And then with him week after week coming out and cutting his promos about how he was just make us happy and kissing babies on the way to the ring, I think that would quickly wear on you and go, oh yeah, that's right. No, I'm out.
But
like,
you want to keep the title reign of Roman Reigns going?
No. So there is a massive stipulation here. Yes, I would agree that I really don't care who it is that takes the belt off of him, even if it's Cody. Great, take it off of him. But then after that moment passes and we get what we want, I want Cody to, him as a babyface champion will be insufferable, because you can already hear the speech. You can already hear him talking about his dad. You can already hear him talking about finishing his story, but then he's going to create a second book or something stupid he'll come up with. You can already hear him, or see him smiling with his, 50 shades of white teeth. His 80 Quest Strip whites that he uses every day. You can see him out there just being insufferable. I already feel it. And then you'll immediately go, oh, that's right. Well, Roman's no longer champion. That's awesome. But now we got to deal with this smiling buffoon every single Monday Night Raw. I mean, or every single SmackDown. So there are, it's a double-edged sword here. But I would take the Roman loss, yes.
Yeah, and it sucks saying that, because you're right. It would suck having Cody Rhodes as champion, but it's just like, I'm at the point right now where it's gotten to the point now where I don't even feel like it's special to see Roman anymore, because it's just like, oh, how nice of you to grace us with your presence. But like, I know they're trying to take the Brock approach, and like, Brock was a part-time champ, but that was kind of Brock's thing. and Brock had options outside of WWE legitimately and was a real life badass, so it made more sense. And I don't know. It's just I never thought I would see the day where and not to say I want a Cody run, I don't, but I never thought I would see the day where I'd be saying I would prefer a Cody Rhodes run rather than prolonging Roman Reigns' run. So, but unfortunately, that's kind of like where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And just to close it out, it's more that we want a Roman loss than a Cody win, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
It's only because Cody is he's being put in this position, and choosing between the two evils, we're going to choose the lesser of two evils, which is Roman Reigns' run coming to an end, even if it's not putting the belt on somebody that you and I particularly are fond of. So, choosing between those two things, sure, we would choose Cody. It's not ideal, but our hands are forced here. So I think that's the best way to put it. But all right, that I think wraps it up. But before we go, I know that you did drop a very fun and relevant After Dark show this past week leading up to WrestleMania 40, and just let everyone know quickly, just briefly, what that was about. That can be found on the After Dark show, guys, by the way, on the SmackDown side, SmackDown tier and higher on Patreon.
Yeah, so I dropped a show centered around the WrestleMania outlook now that Triple H is in charge. I did something similar a few weeks ago, but changed it up now since Vince McMahon has been removed from creative officially. Or at least we've been led to believe, via Ariel Emanuel. I always mix his name up with Ariel Helwani.
Me too.
Really? Okay,
yeah,
at least I'm not alone.
Very different men, but I'm with you. Yeah.
But a lot of it is what I just said, like Cody Rhodes versus. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think I said that now we may be seeing Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. I forget what I went with. But I'll definitely LA Knight versus Drew McIntyre. I locked that in. And I do think that CM Punk is going to play a major X factor between what ends up happening at WrestleMania.
Oof. Yeah. Lots of conflicting reports there, too. There's so many with Punk's doing that. Oh, now he's in TNA. Oh, yeah. It's all over the damn place. Yeah. So we are now, though, guys, I could officially probably say it's not WrestleMania season, but it's pre-WrestleMania season. Like, we're in the preseason. If you, I mean, for those in like any major sports, is preseason. Sometimes those
spring training.
Yeah, exactly. Spring training. Exactly. If you're a baseball fan or whatever, spring training or preseason, whatever you want to say, we're in the preseason or spring training of WrestleMania. So like we can kind of see what the players are, what the chips and where WWE is trying to place them. We can now finally look at those things, and it's going to be a lot of fun from here up until April. Was it? I don't even know. April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, whatever the hell the date is for WrestleMania 40 in Philly. So. All right. Well, that'll conclude our current state of WWE. Next week, guys, though, is going to be already a PLE week with our preview and prediction show that'll be coming late next week. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts next week. That'll be our topic of looking ahead specifically to Crown Jewel and maybe getting your thoughts and predictions heading into the event. So thanks so much for joining me, man. And we will talk soon.
Looking forward to it, man. Take care.
You too.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.